reported in news, USDA announcing this week $12 billion in farmer aid, $11 billion will be in 2025 farmer bridge assistance payment rates. So how could those per acre payments look? Well, USDA won't release those payment rates until the week of December 22nd. But Farm CPA Paul Neiffer did his own calculations this week. Now, those are based on what USDA says they are using for methodology in calculating those payments this year. And we caught up with Paul in our Kansas City studios before hitting the road earlier this week. Well, the Farm CPA Paul Neiffer joining me in Kansas City just so happened to be here, and I am so glad because with Chip Flory out this week, I really wanted you to read between the lines, dissect this new announcement from USDA, these farmer bridge payments. Overall, how would you rate this announcement?
I think it's a little bit better than the ECAP that we had last year actually got paid out this year, because that was only $10 billion allocated for Title I crops. This supposedly has $11 billion allocated for Title I crops, so we're looking at an extra 10%, plus we have $1 billion that's likely set aside for specialty crops or for those non-Title I crops. So I would still rate it a little bit better than ECAP. I'm not sure if it's as good as MFP number 2, better than MFP number 1, but I'd give it a B+.
Well, those details are coming out the week of December 22nd. USDA says that's when they will announce the payment rates. But you've already done your own math based on previous calculations, based on what you expect. You've actually calculated out what you expect those per acre payments to be?
Yeah, so what I did is I took the current MYA price, the mid-year average price, because that's what they use for ECAP. I assumed that the cost of production on average for all the crops would be a similar increase or decrease. And then I took that difference between the price. So let's take the case of soybeans. Last year it was $10 this year, or $10.20. This year it's at $10.50. So actually soybeans might get a little bit of a reduction, but all the other crops, wheat, especially wheat and rice, are seeing a 10-15% increase. So if you take that multiplication, so I took the old ECAP number, multiplied by 110%, because we have an extra 10%, and then multiplied it by that difference in price. So if the price went down, that payment went up a little bit. If the price went up like it did for soybeans, that price went down. Now that's based on the November MYA estimate. We're going to have a December MYA estimate here probably this week, either this week or on Monday. So I'll update it for then. So we'll see what happens. I have some numbers if you want me to share some numbers.
I do, yeah, we have a graphic, so we'll put that graphic on the screen. But what do you expect? And I know we're waiting for updated information from USDA, like you said.
So roughly corn's about $48, soybeans $32, wheat's $37. Now again, this is assuming they do it similar to ECAP. About $97 for cotton, $102 for rice, and then $50 for sorghum or milo.
There is some pushback saying this isn't enough. This doesn't go, this really isn't going to cover our losses that we're seeing, especially, in some of those areas where we have seen some of those trade losses. What do you think? Is this enough?
Well, we've never paid out enough to cover losses. I mean, even if we look at MFP, if we look at ECAP, we look at all of these programs, they've never paid out enough to cover 100% of the losses. Matter of fact, they've never wanted to go above 90% of the losses. So I think this is a good start. We've already heard from Congress people, senators and so on, that maybe there's another bridge package coming. We know likely ARC-PLC for 2025, if prices stay where they're at, we're looking at another $13 billion plus or minus that'll go out next October, which they may allow the producer to elect to collect maybe 50% of that by March or something like that. So, and again, it depends on where you're at. I mean, I've talked to several farmers. They made a lot of money last year and they're going to make money this year, but that's not the norm. The norm is especially rice, cotton, and so on. And the one thing I'm a little concerned about is the payment limit this time is $155,000. There's no extra payment limit. No extra payment limit. Yeah, that's the correct way of saying payment limit. If your AGI from farming is more than 75%, that could hurt the specialty crop producers, because $155,000 for a lot of them, it's almost like they shouldn't even waste their time.
Paul, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us again. The Farm CPA joining us in Kansas City to really dissect this big announcement this week from USDA. Thanks, Paul. Now remember, it's important to note that those payment calculations are Paul Neiffer's, not USDA's official payment rates. He simply used the methodology USDA stated that they'll be using to calculate payments this round, but he said those estimates are likely to change. USDA will officially announce those payment rates the week of December 22nd, so just before Christmas. Well, we need to take a quick break, and then reclaiming farmland in Michigan. Randy Dowdy joins us next.